Mrs. President, Mr. Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, this government declaration was the singing of a failure. Mr. Merz, your own people are already discussing your dismissal, but you sing praises of yourself. To the facts, the labor market is falling. 500,000 jobs were lost by the German economy in the first quarter compared to the previous year. Every 20 minutes, a company falls victim to the insolvency tsunami. Industry contracts are doubling as much as expected. The industrial core is melting. High taxes and energy costs, bureaucracy and planned economy are strangling the basis of our economy, while the state apparatus continues to grow. The exodus of industries abroad is limited to a mass escape. With companies and jobs, people are leaving. In their first year in office, as many German citizens have emigrated as never before. It is the young, the well-educated who are leaving, because they do not see a future in their own country. The mass migration into our social systems from the Third World continues. A 6-digit number of illegals are emigrating under the pretext of asylum and another big city, through the back door of the family succession. With the dismissals, your balance is even more catastrophic than that of the traffic lights. Is this what a migration turnaround looks like? Quite the opposite. You are still manifesting the missing mass migration by throwing the German state bourgeoisie after these migrants, these illegals. The eradication of the German passport has reached a new record in your first year in office. Those who do not live in a blistered bubble, for them the increase of violence, sexual and property offenses, is not a cold statistic, but daily companions of their own fear and concern for our children. At the main station of Nuremberg, the home of CSU chairman Markus Söder, migrant gangs are making underage German girls with drugs in order to abuse them as sex slaves. I ask you, how many Nurembergs are there in Germany? And what have you all, yes, all of you here, made out of our country through mass migration, through sedition and the decay of the widows, only made out of our country? Do you not think the Germans are naive? You are very well aware of how you are dealing with them. You hear exactly when the social minister and SPD chairman Bärbel Boss makes us Germans, as united women, despicable. Whoever speaks like that hates his own and himself and has nothing to look for in a government. Your contempt for the Germans also finds its expression in the social policy. The German tax and contribution payers are supposed to pay higher pensions and work longer. They are supposed to accept rising social contributions for massive power cuts and use their entire wealth and their own home for the care of their children, for which they have saved their lives. But for the lifelong full supply of millions of third world consumers, they are supposed to rise. You do not have to know more about this federal government. For migration costs, development aid, energy transition and climate protection goods, you waste 3-digit billions of euros every year. There is no talk of savings and cuts. The failed energy transition has already swallowed 500 billion euros and will cost us 10 times more than 5 billion euros. You have deliberately destroyed the energy infrastructure of the Federal Republic of Germany. You send billions and billions into Ukraine, and thus finance the extension of a war that should have been ended a long time ago. To this day, you do not demand an account from Kyiv about the explosion of the Nord Stream line. Vital infrastructure for our economy was destroyed, and massive damage was done. Instead, you are daringly looking for confrontation with Russia, an atomic power, to divert from your own failure. You are talking about war. You are always talking about war. You are talking about war and want to support this war and bring Germany into this war. but peace is exactly what this continent needs. And Ukraine, too. Let's finally talk about peace instead of war. And the truth is that Ukraine must never become a member of the European Union and NATO. Point out basta. Record debts, higher taxes and taxes, deindustrialization, the risk of war, migrant violence, hate crimes against the Germans. The citizens of this federal government, and of you, do not have to expect more. That's not just hit dogs barking. That's not just your failure, Mr. Merz, but that of your entire government. However, you are responsible for this, because you have subjugated the left-wing, performance and German hateful SPD. With such staff, a political transition cannot be achieved. Reforms urgently need to be initiated right now. We must declare the so-called climate crisis and energy transition as over immediately. Even the World Climate Council has now recorded its horror scenarios. So why wait? We must eliminate CO2 emissions, reduce energy taxes, return to nuclear power, completely abolish the combustion ban and the heating dictatorship. What we need is market economy and cheap energy, not a ban policy. The rule of law must be reformed, and the barriers to immigration must be drastically increased. The social state migration magnets must be switched off. Illegal migrants must be deported to our borders without exception. Criminals and illegals must be brought back. You should do politics for our country, dear SPD. You are already at 11–12%, or where are you now? If you were only at the Antifa, you can't do reasonable politics. We can see that in the Vice Chancellor and Finance Minister Lars Klingbeil. Nothing learned, never worked, only been at the Antifa, can't deal with numbers. And that's why our country is exactly where it is right now. So you have two options, Mr. Merz. You have two options, Mr. Merz. You can solve the blockade by ending the left-wing coalition with the SPD and looking for new constructive majority. Or you can wait and do nothing, which is to be expected, until the citizens force new elections for an AfD reform government, first in the countries and then in the federal government. We are ready to take responsibility, because Germany deserves it, because we Germans deserve to be governed well. Thank you.